Ons sê vir die goeienaand hier vanaf die Momentum Arena in Pretoria. En dit is waar die groot boksgeveg van die aand gaan plaasvind. Vroeër en later teen Dingaan Tubela teen die groot tegenstander van hom later vanaand. Maar eers is dit Aladin Stevens wat hier moet boks teen Mauricio Aceves. En dit is Tubela wat by Aceves die titel afgeneem het so 'n paar maande gelede. Wen Aladin Stevens vanaand hier, kan daar enige iets gebeur en Stevens kan dalk nog teen Tubela boks vir die wêreldtitel. Alles dui daarop dat dit 'n interessante boks gaan wees. Ons het vir besonderhede oor albei boksers en dan sluit ons aan by Bidlo.
Well, you've seen the stats, so let's go up to ring announcer Henny Peterson.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come to our second international fight of the evening. On my right, in blue and white, weighing in at 61.30 kilograms. He's had 38 fights, 30 wins, 5 losses and 3 draws. Ranked number 6 by the WBO, the former WBO lightweight champion from Mexico, Mauricio Aceves. His opponent in this fight over 10 rounds on my left, in blue and white, weighing 61.70 kilograms. He's had 52 fights for 40 wins, 6 losses and 5 draws. Ladies and gentlemen, the South African lightweight champion, Aladin Stevens. Your judges, Mrs. Skutter, Khadebe and Mehe, and your referee, Alf Bukwana.
I've both spoken to you in the dressing room. I want a clean fight. When I say stop, you stop. Right? When I say break, you break. All right, shake hands and come out fighting.
Ja, die formaliteite is afgehandel. So lyk die beoordelaars. 3 van hulle natuurlik rondom die kruit. En dis die begin van hierdie geveg. Mauricio Aceves, die man vir wie Tubela geklop het en sodoende die wêreldtitel in die liggewigafdeling van die WBO ingepalm het. Aladin Stevens in een van sy belangrikste gevegte vanaand. 32 jaar oud, een van die ouer boksers, 'n goeie linkerhak wat vanaf trek.
Well, this is Aladin Stevens' third reign as South African lightweight champion. In his last fight, a month or so ago, he took on Pee Wee Parker in Laredo, Texas, and lost a very close decision. He seems to have found a new lease of life since regaining the lightweight title, and we're expecting a very competitive fight here this evening. Aceves, as Dion mentioned, is the man who held the WBO lightweight title, which he subsequently lost to Dingaan Tubela.
Aceves is die man wat deurentyd bietjie vorentoe beweeg. Aladin Stevens op die agtervoet, maar is hy wat so ver met 'n paar skoonhoue getref het. Daar was weer 'n linkerhak. En die middenrif het hy getref.
Both these boxers have come in just over the lightweight limit, so officially this is a catchweight bout. But the pace is fairly slow for lightweights. Haven't quite picked up their rhythm yet. Stevens, of course, is a southpaw, as you noticed, fighting with the right foot forward.
In Aladin's hoek het ons vir Andri Steyn Jr. en Andri Steyn Senior. Hulle beweeg al 'n hele paar jaar saam met Aladin Stevens. En Ernesto Gallardo, die afrigter in die hoek van Aceves.
Aceves keeps coming forward, but he hasn't really scored with the better punches. I would say that Stevens has done that. Neither man has warmed up yet, but Stevens picking his punches well here on round one.
Nou is dit Aceves wat daar in slaag om vir Aladin so 'n bietjie teen die toue vas te dwing. En dan met 'n sarsie hou te peper, maar Stevens wat baie vinnig daar uitbeweeg het. Hy kry nog so ligte regterhakke ook.
Nobody does it better. You wouldn't do any less. Nobody does it quite the way you do. Baby, you're the man.
Discipline and manner. There's nobody who can do it better.
The difference between ordinary and outstanding comes down to three things. Very old, very smooth, very rewarding. The Bertram's VO difference. Outstanding.
Londen, 1836. Legal & General reik sy eerste lewensversekeringspolis uit. Vandag in Suid-Afrika leef die tradisie voort in Momentum Lewens. Oorsee sy erfenis met Suid-Afrikaanse kundigheid en kapitaal maak Momentum Lewens een van die groot 5 in lewensversekering.
Just a minute, Spally, my money.
It's like this.
No, it's like this.
No. It's like this, Spally. Bigger pieces than ever.
With special spices.
To make it tastier. In full settlement.
It's a deal.
It's good, it's nice. Chicken licken. Boogie Juice Special. That's 2 tasty pieces of chicken licken with chips or spicy ricey, only R3.99. Chicken licken.
Good to see Omandri Steyn back in the corner. And as you notice, Aladin Stevens stands between rounds. He doesn't sit. And straight away, Aceves is back on the attack, driving forward, but still to land a truly effective punch.
Aceves wat hier baie vinnig begin in die tweede ronde. 'n Klein bietjie langer as Aladin.
Aceves caught Stevens with a couple of good right hands just before the bell ended round one. And that, of course, is the classic reply to the southpaw. And I fancy that he's waiting for the opportunity to unload that punch yet again. Stevens boxing from the outside, as you notice, making good use of this ring. And pacing himself well. He hasn't forgotten. I almost punched himself out in the sweltering heat of Larida.
Daar was een baie goeie regter geweest van Mauricio Aceves. Aladin Stevens het hom nie mooi sien kom nie, maar hy het hom definitief gevoel. Daar's geen twyfel daaroor nie. Kom hy weer met daai linkertjie. Dit is wat hom Andries net nou gesê het, Nieuwk. Hy moet sy linker gebruik.
Yeah, Stephen was shaken by that right hand from Aceves, and that, of course, is a danger punch for him. Aceves waiting for the opportunity to unload that punch. He can bide his time, and once again he catch, but this time it's a glancing punch from Aceves, high on the side of Stephen's head.
Nou, die lyfhouer van Aladin Stevens, wat hy ook goed gebruik op die oomblik, maar so half of hy nie heeltemal die deurdringingskrag het nie. Daar was weer 'n kort regtertjie wat vir Aladin Stevens getref het van Aceves. 'n Linker nou van Aladin Stevens. Nou hy's 'n hotklou bokser. Daar's 'n goeie linker gewees. Dit was die beste linker tot dusver gewees, maar Aceves het die kop geskit. En weer eens Stevens met die linker. En die oog is oop van Aceves, die linker oog is oop. Of die regteroog. Die regteroog van Aceves. Maar dan oop is. As hy hier na ons toe gestaan het, is dit natuurlik links toe hy so kyk, maar daar is 'n groot sny.
Well, he has some replay from that round, and you'll notice Stevens catching Aceves with that left to the side of the head. In fact, that could well have been the punch that caused the damage to his right eye. And yet again, this time Aceves blocked the punch, missed with his own left. More replay from that round. Stevens coming back with the left to the side of Aceves' head. Very effective punch indeed, and that rocked the Mexican.
Onder en oor, Aladin. Onder en oor. Correct. Onder en oor. No more fight.
Ja, hulle gaan nie verder gaan met hierdie geveg nie, so wil dit vir my lyk. Hulle sê hy sny is te erg, nou word die dokter geroep. Nee, dit word stopgeset. Dis die afrigter van Mauricio Aceves wat sê no more fight, no more fight. Dis meneer Gallardo, kom ons kyk net. Dan Christodoulou en Dr. Joe Javu, die is ook daarby. Hulle wil definitief nie verder veg nie. Kom ons kyk wat gaan gebeur, of hulle wel gaan voortgaan of nie. Clooney Gallardo kon daai bloeding stop nie, maar dit is 'n groot sny. Ek kan hom van hier af sien, dis 2-3 centimeter lank. Nou ja, die skeieregter lyk vir my beduie die geveg gaan voortgaan.
Well, quite clearly, the ringside doctor must have said that the cut wasn't bad enough for a stoppage, and he's ordered the fight to continue.
En nou begin hierdie derde ronde teen 'n geweldige tempo. Aladin Stevens wat nou met daai linker weer probeer. Hy was nie daar gewees nie. Konsentreer ook 'n bietjie op die lyf. En daar's nog 'n linker wat op daai oog tref.
Well, Aceves still pressing forward, and that cut has held up pretty well so far, considering that they wanted to stop this fight between rounds.
En daar was weer 'n linker gewees op daai regteroog van Mauricio Aceves. Nie so baie bloed wat daar uitkom nie, so dit lyk vir my sy hoek het nie te sleg gevaar om die bloeding te stop nie. Ja, Aceves het begin klaar. Hy kan nie sien uit daai oog nie.
Well, I don't think this fight is going to continue much further, Dion. Once the blood starts coming from that cut, he's surely going to retire in his corner, and they can't force him to continue. Strangely, Aceves hasn't tried to unload that big right hand of his, and that's his best bet at this stage of the fight. I mean, he's obviously in a losing position, and I would have thought he'd unload that right hand. Hasn't really done it.
Maar ek is bevrees, ek stem saam met Bert, dat daar die bloeding en hy sit op die oogbank, eintlik op die ooglid. Hy tref Aladin baie goed links-regs, Mauricio Aceves, maar daar die bloeding stroom die hele tyd in sy oog. Hy is besig om die hele tyd met die regterhand die bloed uit die oog te vee, om sodoende te probeer sien. En ek glo hy gaan moeilik uit sy hoek kom na hierdie ronde. Hy klaar, het lyk vir hom, daar was kop by gewees, maar die skeieregter meneer Bukwana sê boksvoort.
Well, that was an accidental clash of heads. This fight's not going to go much further. Aceves looking for a way out, and there's the bell. Let's see if he will come out for round 3.
London, 1836. Legal & General issues its first life assurance policy. Today in South Africa, that tradition lives on in Momentum Life. Overseas heritage coupled with South African capital and know-how make Momentum Life one of the big 5 in life assurance.
First, there was the longbow that hit the target but missed the spot. Now there's a new generation. Crossbow. Crisp, fresh tasting. Crossbow cider hits the spot every time. Crossbow cider, the thirst buster.
That's some replay from the third round. Dramatic round in which Aceves wanted to quit before the bell even called him out. And you can see at every opportunity Aceves gives the indication that he wants to stop. Here's more replay from that third round. Stevens looking for the opportunity to land that left of his on the rather bad cut on Aceves' right eye.
Ja, dinge gaan voort. Skeieregter wat praat oor daai kopstampery ook. Bietjie meer lyfhoue vroeg in hierdie ronde. Goeie linker wat weer van Aladin Stevens af deur die verdediging gedring het van Aceves.
Stevens is picking his punches very nicely indeed here in the fourth round. Going to the body, switching him to the head. Little coming back from Aceves so far. And quite clearly the Mexican very concerned about that cut on his right eye and Stevens' head.
Aceves wat deurentyd vorentoe beweeg. En nou weer met 'n goeie regter getref het. Hy was al amper so 'n bietjie laag geweest. Aladin Stevens 40 van sy 52 gevegte gewen.
Important to remember that if Stevens wins here this evening, he will get a very high rating by WBO, and the champion is Dingo Tabella.
En daar was weer uitstekende linker wat getref het op daardie regteroog wat reeds 'n groot sny aan het. Aceves wat hom moes gevoel het. Maar die bloed wat nou nog niet te veel plaat op die stadium van die ronde nie. Nou, hy regter het nie baie krag gehad van Aceves nie. En het is definitief Aladin Stevens wat sy linker uitstekend gebruik. Het wil so al lyk of Aceves nie mooi antwoord het op hierdie hotklou nie. Hierdie keer Aladin Stevens wat met de regter ook getref het en weer een linker op die neus, maar daar was niet so baie krag by gewees nie. En Aceves wat met de aanvalspoging kom, goeie combinaties daar gewees.
Well, Stevens boxing very well indeed, picking his punches beautifully. And so far he's avoided the big right hands that have come from Aceves. Well, round 4 was a strange sort of round in which Aceves seemed reluctant to come forward, and Stevens took advantage of that, as you can see in this replay.
Nou, hierdie ronde sal die geveg halfpad wees. In het stadium was hy amper iets van die verlede, hierdie geveg. Maar hy groot sny sit nog boek aan die oog en Aceves wat steeds voortgaan met die geveg.
Well, a more aggressive start by Aceves here at the beginning of the 5th round. But Stevens was unflustered. Still mixing up his punches well, particularly on the inside.
Die mannen amper in dieselfde kleur broekies hier. Net die blauw wat so 'n bietjie verskil. Mauricio Aceves so 'n bietjie meer naar die koningsblauw kant toe. Ja, daar komt weer klachten van Aceves se kant af, van die kop het weer getref hier teen sy wang. Aladin Stevens wat ook die waarschuwing krijgt van die skeieregter.
A good combination coming from Aceves. And Stevens comes back with a solid left of his own.
Ja, albei boksers wat nou goed van hulle linkers gebruik maak. Maar Aceves wat nog steeds probleme het om veral met daardie regter van hom goed te tref. Die linker van Aladin Stevens boer in sy gesig.
Well, there's no question about it. Aceves is far more aggressive here in the 5th round. Seems to have refound his confidence. And he's landing some pretty good shots. But Stevens is staying with him, punch for punch.
Had nou 'n goeie regter deurgekom van Aceves. Aladin Stevens wat die lyf ook daar aanval. Het sy hou goed gewisseld tot dusver. En dan elke nou en dan is dit die linker wat tref in die gesig van Aceves.
Well, the fifth round was a much better round for Aceves, and you can see why here in this replay. Catching Stevens with a good left hook to the head, and yet again, and driving a right to the short ribs. More replay from the fifth round. Stevens trying to score with that left, but going behind Aceves' head.
Young jab, Aladin, a young jab, vanaf 1-2. Vanaf 1-2. Dan gaan we je rechterkant doen, niet rechter, linksom gaan. Ga rechtsom, weg van de rechter.
Andries Stein wat sê hy met rechtsom beweeg, nie linksom nie. Hy is weer die vinnige begin van Aceves.
Well, Aceves has picked up the pace right at the start of the sixth. Using the jab far more effectively than he's done at any stage in this fight so far.
Aceves wat nie eintlik vir Aladin Stevens kans gee om te veel rechtsom te beweeg nie. Tref hy met 'n goeie regter. Aceves wat definitief nie hou van die kopstampery nie. Die skeieregter is deurend uit daar, meneer Albert Bukana, en hy hou saak in fyn dop. En dit is waarna ons nog kan uitsien vanaand. Suid-Afrika se WBO wêreldkampioen. Nou kom die waarskuwing vir die kop.
Well, I must say that Aceves' corner has done a remarkably good job in sealing that cut on his right eye. We haven't even seen a trickle of blood here in the sixth round from the cut on Aceves' right eye. So all credit to Aceves' corner. They've done a great job.
Dit laat mense wonder hoekom sy afrigter, heer Gallardo, so vinnig wou hy die geveg moet stopgesit word, maar hy het definitief die moed hier by hom om te sorg dat daardie sny nie nou soveel probleme veroorsaak nie.
Yes, Dion, that'll remain a big mystery, I think, because he seemed to panic and wanted to stop the fight far too soon.
Die manne wat definitief nie bang is om houe te verwissel nie.
Well, Aceves hasn't forgotten that it was his right hand that staggered Stevens early on in this fight. But Stevens seems to be mostly slipping inside that blow. He's learned with experience.
En kyk vir die ou. Jy laat hy alleen geslaan doen, jy beweeg en dan vanaf. Jy moet nie laat hy alleen slaan.
Here's some replay from that sixth round. A particularly good round for Aceves, because although Stevens caught him with the left in this replay, he threw far more punches and looked in far better control of the fight. Here's more replay from the round. Good right hand from Aceves. Didn't quite catch Stevens on the point of the chin, but drove him back nevertheless.
No por nocaut, sino por lesión. Entonces,
Ja. Moenie staan nie. Vinnig in die ronde, draai teen hom. Vinnig in die ronde.
Dis nommer 7 van 10.
Aceves driving forward. There appears to be much more purpose behind his punching now. Picking up his pace beautifully.
Meestal hier in die binnengevegte nou en die enigste kophou tot dusver het gekom van Aladin Stevens af. Goeie linker, maar hy was nie heeltemal daar gewees. Hy haal van die handskoen af.
There's a certain urgency about Aceves' work here in round 7. Keeping the pressure on Stevens as he drives him around the ring with those clubbing rights to the head and even a left hook we see on the inside.
Ek moet sê die regters van Aceves stoot hy goed uit. Daar's 'n paar van hulle wat al deurgedring het. Stevens wat so 'n bietjie na die hoek toe loer terwyl hy daar naby is. Nou weer 'n bietjie meer bloed uit die oog, die regter oog. Wat 'n sny net daar op die ooglid het van Aceves. Aceves kry 'n goeie kombinasie terug.
I suspect the thought has crossed Aceves' mind that he can still win this fight. And he can certainly do that if he unloads that right hand on the point of Stevens' chin, because that was a punch that shook Stevens early on. And we've seen far better work rate, a much higher punch rate from Aceves here late in the second half of the fight than we saw in the first.
Aladin Stevens wat nie op hom laat wag nie. Hy ontvang 'n paar goeie houe, maar hy deel ook uit. Rukkie kom weer 'n kort linker opstoppertjie van Stevens wat vir Aceves goed getref het. Daai regter opstopper van Aceves nie daar nie.
Well, here's some replay from that 7th round, and you can see it. Chevy looking very aggressive indeed, banging right to the top of Stevens' head as he came forward. Here's more replay with the Chevys attacking the body. Solid shots to the midsection as he drives Stevens backward.
En nou is hulle besig om net buite beeld weer te kyk na die oog van Aceves. As Dr. Joe Javu skitkop, het lyk vir my is die einde van die geveg. Ja, het lyk vir my die geveg is iets van die verlede. Skeieregter meneer Bukwana wat beduie dat dit verby is. Dr. Joe Javu sê daai sny is definitief nou te sleg en gevaarlik. En na 7 rondes dan is dit Aladin Stevens wat hier aangewys word as oorwinnaar.
Well, it looks as though Aceves is not going to answer the bell for the 8th round. His corner is very concerned about that cut on his right eye, which means that Stevens wins this fight on a technical knockout in the 8th round. Chevy's failing to answer the bell. The Chevy's failing to answer the bell for the 8th round, which means that Stevens wins on a technical knockout in the 8th round. And that's a bit of a surprise because in the last couple of rounds, the Chevy's had come back rather well. He was boxing, I thought, far better than he had in the earlier rounds. But that cut has been a problem for him. And there was great concern from his trainer, Ernesto Gallardo. As you know, he tried to stop the fight. He wanted to stop this fight at the end of the second, and he was overruled by the doctors. And here at the end of the 7th, he finally gets his way. Well, this is a particularly good win for Aladin Stevens. It means that he will go fairly high in the WBO world ratings in lightweight division. And don't forget that the champion in that division is our own Dingaan Tabela. So who knows, somewhere down the road we may well have a world championship fight between two South Africans for the lightweight WBO lightweight championship of the world. I think that's the aim of the promoters, and certainly with this victory this evening, Stevens will go pretty high in the rating. Dion LaRue has gone up into the ring, and we hope to get an interview with Aladin Stevens. We're still waiting for the official announcement, but I would hazard a guess that it's going to be a technical knockout in the 8th round, with Aceves failing to answer the bell.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the result of the bout between Aladin Stevens and Mauricio Aceves. The judges scored as follows: Judge Skutter 69-67, Judge Khadebe 69-65, Judge Mehe 68-67. The winner on a technical win in the 7th round, Aladin Stevens.
Well, you heard that. It's not a technical knockout, it's a technical win, and which suggests that they must have considered the first cut to be opened by an accidental headbutt. Well, here is Dion LaRue ready to interview the winner of tonight's fight, Aladin Stevens. Up to Dion LaRue.
Ja, dankie Bert. Ons staan hier by Aladin en ons gaan nou net met Andri Steyn ook praat. Aladin sê vir my daardie sny wat nou die probleme veroorsaak het dat die geveg gestaak is. Dink jy dit was die kop of was dit 'n goeie hou?
Hoe kan ek sê dat was in die eerste ronde, ek het afrotter gesê, ek het my straight linker gebruik, ek het my regte linker gebruik en ek het hom effens seer gemaak in die eerste ronde, maar my trainer gesê moet hom seer maak in die eerste ronde. En die tweede ronde wat ek alweer tref, saam met die linkerwand, het ingekom, hy wil my probeer snijden saam met hom kop en ek kon het nie recht kry die en toe maak ek hom weer op met die linker raak op die oog. Hy wil my al die keer maar probeer tot nou wat die geveg beëindig het, met die kop te slaat. En my afrotter heeft my op tijd gesê, ek my linker kort maak, want ek het hom breed geslaat en ek het hom elke skoot gevang as ek hom kort tref.
En ja, jy gaan uit die aard van die saak nou 'n baie hoë posisie kry op die ranglys en sien jy daarna uit om dalk teen Dingaan Tabela te staan te kom?
Ja, ek sien uit dieselfde met my afrotter ook, as die geveg wat ek soek. Ek is kampioen van 82 af tot 91, is al liggewig kampioen. En Tabela het 'n oorbrugging oor my kop gemaak wat verkeerd is. Soos die groot mense sê, jy maak eers skoon voor jou deur, voor jy in ander se deure kyk. En hy het nie dit gedoen nie, so ek voel baie neergedruk op dit.
So jy sien uit om hom te ontmoet definitief?
Ja.
Goed, Aladin, baie dankie en nogmaals geluk met 'n pykoorwinning.
Dankie, baie dankie.
Nou, dit was die stem van Aladin Stevens wat aan hierdie geveg hier gewen het. Dit was 'n tegniese wen in die 17de of die 7de ronde. Mens raak so 'n bietjie opgewonde met al hierdie dinge bymekaar, maar dit gee vir ons geleentheid om eers terug te gaan na die ateljee in Johannesburg.